Welcome to My Money Mindset podcast, where we explore how a healthy mindset is the foundation for financial success. Each week, we delve into mindset hacks and practical strategies to help you enhance your income, help you make more appropriate investments for yourself, and to improve your overall financial well-being. Join us on this journey to transform your financial future by transforming your mindset. Please note that the information provided on this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute as personal, financial or health advice. It has been prepared without considering your individual objectives, financial situation or life needs. Before making any financial or health decisions, you should consult with a qualified professional or financial advisor to ensure the information aligns with your specific circumstances. So let's begin and enjoy this journey as each episode teaches us on how to improve our overall mindset that overall improves our financial success. Today's episode's in relation to people wanting to build a business or start a business or buy into a building to begin a business. That sort of stuff. Currently, I have clients of mine that I've been helping for the last 11 years, and they have been working as IT professionals, both of them. Lovely couple, and they basically want to build upon their business. They actually now do a business outside of their working hours, and it's all got to do with catering and food, and that's their passion. They want to eventually get out of IT and work on their business in catering. And with the skills that they have acquired in catering, they believe that, in years to come, 1 or 2 years, they'll be able to be successful enough to move on to their business as a full-time gig and leave their full-time job. So really exciting stuff. For those of you that are sort of in a similar mind frame or eventually would like to run your business, this episode will basically explain sort of what to look out for and what sort of the benefits are, and hope it works from there. So basically, my clients did come to me about a year ago when we started looking at the prospects of buying a pub that was up for sale around in their area, and that pub also had living quarters upstairs to what they were considering moving into, selling up their principal place of residence and moving into upstairs and then operating the pub. Unfortunately for them at the time, their finances weren't enough in order to acquire or buy the pub and move into it full-time, set it up and get the business running. Unfortunately, in most instances, this is the case, because what tends to happen with the dreams that we all have is we start really eager and we start big, and unfortunately, most of the time, finance is the one that stops us, or lack of finance, right? So what happens there is that we all get into a sort of a goal planning mind frame, and we say, well, okay, if we can't do it today, what we will do is we'll plan for a year or 2 or 3, and then we will do it. And then in between that journey, sometimes the plans change, they get disorientated, or could be things happen in life within those next years to 1 to 2, 3 years comes up, and you can't afford still, or your goals change and you're not committed to that original goal, and so on and so forth. But the main thing here is to understand that your goal, or what you are looking at doing with creating your own business, is the beginning of something hopefully greater than where you are at the moment. So it doesn't mean if you never get there. What it does mean that if you do learn upon what you're going through in order to acquire the business or fund the business or save money for the business, what you learn and what you take with you is the most important thing. If you do get to that goal, and that goal is something that you think, well, this is awesome, we're going to grow on that, God, that is fantastic. If it's something that you get to and a year later you think it's not what it's cracked up meant to be, it's all about the experience. You may have saved a bit of money, lost a bit of money, or acquired more money by selling the business. Whatever it is, it's the experience that counts here. So in hindsight, always make sure the finance is okay, but then in hindsight, always make sure your mind frame is okay and that you retain an open mind. Nothing more special about being an entrepreneur and experiencing being an entrepreneur, but and having an open mind. An open mind for an entrepreneur is pretty much everything. And when I mean open mind, it doesn't mean that you're susceptible to anything that may create you issues or concerns. It's being an open mind to understand and having and acquiring a skill of empathy, or wouldn't even call empathy a skill. I'd think empathy more as a personality trait, that trying to really understand what it is that other people are going through when you're communicating. Everyone we speak to in life, I believe, is a different energy, and there is something that everyone can give and we can give them in life, right? So it's one of those things, and becoming an entrepreneur to go into bigger and better things such as your own business, and that even goes for investments and stuff like that. Open mind, empathy, being able to communicate with people, just loving life basically, and being able to help other people enrich their lives is truly a gift for any entrepreneur. And like I always say, what goes around comes around. So if you put out good energy, it definitely does come back. And it's not something you do it for that, but it's just the way the universe flows, and that's the flow of the universe. So what you put in is what you get out, right? So, and we all, I think, are strong advocates for that. So, let's start off with the couple that of my clients that were looking at buying the pub. What actually happened is they found out that their finances weren't enough, and they basically said, well, we'll keep saving. So what they did is they started saving. They got to a point where they believed that they could live without their full-time jobs. So the male client was going to, we'll call him Bob, and Bob and Mary so I can put a name reference to it. Bob decided to leave his work. Mary decided to stay full time so they could have a little bit of cash coming in while Bob prepared. It was great strategy. So basically one person keeps the cash flow going. The other person, if there is a couple, then jumps over. If you're only a person on your own, and your partner, or you're just on your own and you want to start your own business, you don't have that luxury of that cash flow. I'll get to that, but what you want to make sure is cash flow is always going into your household, so it doesn't cause you any anxiety or stress by running out of money. Even though you do your figures and you acquire for certain things when operating or starting a business, so for instance in this case they needed to buy a pub that was in circa of $1 million. They needed about 30% deposit, being $300,000 plus a few other fees, that was 300, and I think it equated to roughly 350 odd thousand. And then from there they also needed to be able to make sure that they could live in the next year, as in a full year of spending for groceries, operating the business, and we placed another 100,000 on top of that, which was 450,000. And they sort of had enough equity in their property that they'd been living in to sort of place a deposit on, but they were really worried about getting the equity out of their principal place of residence. So basically what I was going to do was refinance their property, get the cash out to buy the business, and basically buy the pub and have their owner-occupied property. Things looked a little bit tight, so they said, look, if we're going to do something, we're going to commit to it. And they basically went on the journey of selling their house and acquiring the cash to be able to buy the property, and so on and so forth. There was a few other things that I had to do in the middle to acquire the property and make sure they didn't lose the opportunity, of course. But in a nutshell, they ended up selling their home to buy the pub and commit themselves. They're actually doing quite well with the pub at the moment. So are all stories this way? No, of course not. What was the reasons that they were successful in doing what they're doing and actually opening another pub? Was simply because they're great operators. They were focused. They believed in what they were doing. And from every initial step in conversation, we were able to work out exactly what the pain points were. Nothing worse than not identifying potential pain points and adding a dollar sign to that, simply because it enables you to sort of somewhat go back and make sure that every time you're stepping forward towards opening your own business, it's a step in the right direction. Yes, it does cost money. Yes, there are pitfalls to look out for, but all in all, there are success stories, and most businesses out there with small to medium-sized businesses all started in a way where the people or the owners or the potential business owners were committed from day one. And it's not the day one where you buy the business. Day one is when the idea of becoming a business owner, that is day one. That there is the mind frame that begins you on this potential journey of greatness. It is a fantastic life. It's probably not for everyone. Sometimes people prefer to go back and work for a corporation or a company or another business and sort of not hold the reins of running their own business or the stresses that are related to it. So it's not a bad thing. It just means that any of you, and this is what this episode is about, any of you thinking about doing it, what to look out for. What to look out for simply is cash flow. Everything else in life happens. We can't prevent everything. That's why we've got insurances and stuff like that, right? So don't always assume that you can prevent any disasters. As we all know, disasters can happen in life, but we can try and minimize those. So don't always think that planning and over planning and spending a lot of time on trying to counterbalance anything that may go wrong. Really, some people do get into the nitty gritty of they're worried about this, they're worried about that. What I would be doing is compensating as the cash flow, number one. So making sure that whilst you're living, you've actually got enough cash flow to do what you want to do whilst operating the business, and also making sure that you know what your business is costing to run and operate for the next 12 or 24 months to do projections. So for instance, what I mean by that is making sure that if your business is going to cost you $50,000 per annum or $10,000, let's say as an example, per month, then you want to make sure that you're making $10,000 plus somewhere in a vicinity of a wage to help you keep buoyant for the next 12 months, right? But as your business grows, that's also going to get easier. So there is a lot to consider here, but you being the expert of your field, then you're going to have to sort of apply that knowledge or that experience or that forecast to be able to implement that in a dollar sign. And what I mean by that, if you're thinking, well, I need $10,000 a month to cover the rent or whatever it might be, equipment costs, finance, whatever, interest payments, add backs, that thing, then you really want to be making sure that you've got that plus sum in the cash flow to live and survive, right? So in that case, if it's 10,000, you'd want to times that by 12 is 120 grand surplus cash lying around. They commonly call that a float or a residual that you can always dive back into if business does go slow. And business will go slow. Don't think that business is all about fast pace. Some businesses are, but you sort of can work around it. Don't fear the slow parts. The slow parts are good. It's pretty much like a dormant stage. So for instance, if you're busy for the next 3 months, then the next month after that is quite slow. You use those slow months to build up your marketing, build up your presence, work on things that you never had time for whilst you were busy, that sort of thing. And that's all part of being an entrepreneur or a business owner, right? So making sure that your cash flows is up there is number one key element. The rest, as in mind space and everything, you've got to be a confident operator. Nothing worse than not being confident at your job or your role or your what to do. Always make sure that you've got that covered. So most of the time with business owners, they find, especially in the early years, that they're really focused upon really making sure that they're all over every task. If you can delegate tasks, make sure you do that. Make sure that you communicate properly. Communication is key in any good business, whether it be serving customers or your suppliers or just purely engaging with your client or your brokers or whoever, your solicitors, that sort of stuff, right? Important to have a team that can help you communicate what your business needs. If you've got a business coach or something like that, make sure that they're all over it and they're there to help you in those skills as well. They want to be really financially there on you on that journey to building that business. So it's pretty much they're the main essential parts. Running a business, like I say, does take up, it's very taxing on time. So it definitely is. You'll often see most business owners or successful business owners saying that their business is a way of life for them. They actually love what they do, and anyone that loves what they do seem to really go really well at what they're doing, and financially, life-wise. So it becomes a lifestyle. It doesn't mean that you live at your business, although some people do, as in the example that I gave you with my clients operating the pub. They lived there, and then they built the pub. Then they built an Airbnb quarters upstairs above the pub. Things just went better and better, and they ended up buying a second pub, and everything's going really well from there. So they've done really well, right? But their mind frame was always about making sure that the family was content and the business was operating at its full capacity. Would they ever go back to their old jobs? No, that was them. But that's not to say that's for everyone. Like I said, make sure before you make the jump, whether you're a couple or you're just on your own, make sure that you've done all your research. Try and think about what your day in the life would be if you did have your own business. Some people try their business on the side and continue working. They don't commit their full life commitment to the business, but they continue working and do it as a side hustle. Whatever works, guys. Most of the time, just like a side hustle or a side business is just as enjoyable as running a business and making sure that your business is your 100% commitment. Some people like they're having both, working for another business and being an employee, whilst also running a small business on the side. If they've got the time and the luxury to do that and it's working out well, God bless, that's the way to go. Some people think, well, I've only got a side hustle, I'm never really going to make as much money what I've always been. It's not about how much you make, it's about being content in life. The more content you are, the more money you will make. I always believe that, because then if you are happy and you are doing what you're doing with your money, invest that money, right? So if you're thinking at the moment, look, I am working all hours of the day because I've got a side gig. I've got clients that sometimes are DJs. They also work as things in their garage or whatever it might be after their full-time job, and they've never really got time. What you do want to do is sort of put a goal together and say, okay, I'm working as a DJ. I'm never home on the weekends, but I earn really great money as a DJ. I make more in my DJ side hustle than what I do on my full-time job or whatever it might be. It might be a market stall. So I'm never home though. What am I going to do here? And how am I going to continue this for the next 10 years and not see my kids grow up? That sort of stuff. Well, start saving and start being the master of your own domain, in a sense, to say, well, okay, if you really would like a balance and keep your side hustle, but also enjoy the family life or other things in life, which I'm all about that, right? It's all about the balance. Then, halve it or quarter it, and you think, well, I need the money though. Make sure if you need the money, what it is about it that's holding you up against the wall to say you need the money. Is it your living expenses are too high? Are your commitments or past commitments too high? Is it the home loan that's too high? If it's your home loan, get it refinanced, that sort of stuff. Consolidate debt. If you've got a home loan and a car loan and a credit card, speak to someone about that. Don't always think that just because you're earning more, you've got to spend more. If you earn more, spend the same and save more, well then that saving is going to be contributed to your investment. So guys, there's always a pain point for someone, and don't always think that working is the be-all end-all or the business is the be-all end-all for you. Make sure that you're managing your money properly. Thus why that's going to create a lot of motivation to you to enjoy your life. Nothing worse than overworking and not enjoying either your side hustle, your business, your job, or life in itself, right? So I hope this episode really helped. It's always a very difficult decision to make. There are so many things to ask yourself before entering into a business or commitment so large. I would always say, look, if you don't have that confidence, learn to develop a mind frame that is confidence. So build your confidence up in levels of making sure that your knowledge is up there. So if you're sort of vague in knowledge about what it is about the business, the subject, whatever it might be, learn more. With knowledge comes your confidence starts to build right up, right? So more knowledge, more confidence, that sort of stuff. Talk to people in the industry or those that are related to that industry. So if you're thinking about, let's say, becoming a finance broker, you'd talk to real estate agents who deal with finance brokers. You talk to accountants and go what it is that brokers have to do. And you speak to other finance brokers that are great in the industry and all that sort of stuff. If you wanted to be a DJ, so on and so forth, right? And these are the sort of things, and you'd also want to be able to envisage yourself in that role as well. Are you able to do the hours, or are you able to, grow that business if you ever wanted to grow it, that sort of stuff. So, there's 1,000 things to cover, but obviously when it comes to this sort of thing, speak to your family members, they know you best. Speak to people in the industry and sort of start to build a bit of a goal around it. I'm big on sort of breaking down those goals. So if you want to start a business in 12 months, you want to make sure that you got your money covered, number one. You want to make sure you got your time covered, number two. And then your mind frame as well, number three. All those three are the three pillars of success in any beginning of any business or investment purchase. So hope it helps, guys. All the best with it. Reach out if you need me to cover anything else when it comes to starting a business. I'm more than happy to help, and all the best with it. Thank you.